Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and a very warm welcome to Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. As you all know, the first Wonder Woman film, directed by Patty Jenkins and written by Alan Heinberg and Zack Snyder, is my favourite comic book superhero movie of all time. It's just the perfect movie. Of course, no movie is perfect. Anything made by human hands is never going to be perfect, and there's always going to be flaws. So I can say it's perfect and you'll find a billion flaws. I don't care. It's my favourite comic book movie of all time. And on today's DC Universe Daily, I want to lift up the bonnet of this movie and try and explain to you why this is my favourite movie, why it is such a good movie, and why, in my kind of confused state, I don't understand why other comic book movies don't do the same as this movie did. The number one thing I've always asked, even as a child, why aren't more comic book writers writing comic book films and live action in general? Now, it's very, very interesting when we look at the inception of Arrowverse. Why was Arrowverse so good at the beginning? Because 2 out of the 3 or 4 people working on Arrowverse at the beginning were comic book people. And once those people kind of slipped away from that, then it lost its quality. And then it was more TV production based rather than listening to the people they were consulting with from the comics. Jeff Johns being one of the people who helped develop the Arrow television show. So we don't see that. The MCU don't really use comic book people either as consultants or to help them develop their movies. So I'm sure someone can find another movie, right, apart from Wonder Woman, which we're here to talk about today, that comic book people have been heavily involved in. I can't think of one right now, but your knowledge may be better than mine. Wonder Woman 2017 was co-written by Wonder Woman comic book scribe, writer Alan Heinberg. He's also helped develop Sandman with Neil Gaiman, and that's why that show works as well. So this is what Wonder Woman has got on its side, is they're actually using someone from the comics who understands the DC world, but more importantly, understands Wonder Woman. So this is why this film is so good. Ultimately, you can give credit to Patty Jenkins, Zack Snyder, Alan Heinberg. Do you know what? I'm of the opinion now that this was the perfect fit. You know, having these 3 people involved in this movie just works. You've got Zack for the choreography, who Patty was using as a consultant to help her with the choreography. One of the reasons the choreography of Wonder Woman 2017 is far superior than 1984. Zack's VFX people were also involved in Wonder Woman 2017. Patty Jenkins removed all those people from Wonder Woman 84. I think we know which movie has the better VFX. So Wonder Woman has all the right people. Patty Jenkins, Alan Heinberg, Zack Snyder, and all of Zack's people as well. Really, Wonder Woman 2017 was Zack Snyder's brainchild. Imagine if we had Zack Snyder having these other standalone movies in the DCEU and he was never forced out. Maybe it was down to him that Alan Heinberg co-wrote Wonder Woman 2017. I'm not going to say maybe, definitely. So just imagine if he got a Flash comic book writer to co-write the Flash movie with him when he was in charge, or Aquaman, or Cyborg. Imagine what we would have got. Each one of those characters would have had as good a movie as the first Wonder Woman. Then think about what kind of franchise we would have had. And here's the truth. If there was no interference, Zack would have got there in the end. Because Zack's ideas for Wonder Woman 2017 pleased the audience. His idea to have a Wonder Woman comic book writer co-write the film with him worked. Pleased Wonder Woman fans, DC fans, and more importantly, in terms of money, the general audience. It worked for everyone. Wonder Woman 2017 is not just my favourite comic book movie, it's one of the best comic book movies ever made because it's structured with foundations and it's made with great principles. And you know, this is the question I've been asking about the newly formed DC Studios. How many comic book artists and writers are going to be involved in this studio? Has this studio been populated with even people working it? Or is it literally just James Gunn and Peter Safran coming up with ideas and basically David Zaslav just calling it DC Studios? Because, my friends, there is a difference here. You either do things properly or you're artificially creating a situation to try and make it look like you have foundations and a structure. And if this is what James Gunn and Peter Safran and David Zaslav are doing, they will come unstuck very quickly. If you're going to have a DC Studios, I want to see DC Comics artists and writers in that studio, and I want James and Peter going to them for advice so they can do the best thing for this franchise. Because if these people think they can lazily create a cinematic TV, gaming and animated universe, you know, focusing around one story, lazily do it and just quickly put it together in a few months, they couldn't be more wrong. Because the fans, the consumer and the audience are not dumb. If you do it properly, you get films like Wonder Woman 2017. And if you do it lazily, you get films like Justice League. You get films like Wonder Woman 84, where you think what the audience want. But guess what, Patty? We already got the Wonder Woman we wanted with the first movie. No one's telling you had to repeat that movie. What you needed to do was tell a great story. Basically, you know, you had Jeff Johns there. Jeff Johns knows the Cheetah character very well. So I don't understand how a film co-written in terms of Wonder Woman 84 by a comic book man like Jeff Johns. I mean, I'm talking about using someone from the comics. Patty Jenkins did in Wonder Woman 84. So what went wrong? Was his name just attached? Did he ever really co-write the story or even the script with Patty Jenkins? Or did the man advise her and she totally ignored him? I think it's probably the latter. So, you know, you see the positive kind of results of having a comic book person co-writing a movie about a comic book character. And obviously, it can't just be any comic book writer. They have to be talented and they have to know their stuff. But I also feel having a comic book artist on the production is very important. It's something that I would do because I can't draw at all, but I have ideas in my head. So you can have that comic book artist actually draw your ideas. And also, they understand these characters visually as well. So this is why Wonder Woman 2017 is such a great movie. It's why it works. It's why I rewatch it so many times. It is one of the best comic book movies ever made. And this is why it was beloved and it still is beloved today. And it's why it made so much money. So when people ask why the DCEU failed, I don't blame Zack Snyder. They brought the man in. They knew what they were going to get from him, right? So you let him do his thing. And if Wonder Woman 2017 was anything to go by, I believe if Zack Snyder was left alone without any studio interference, I think we would have had a very, very successful DCEU. Why was Snyder removed so quickly? Because the people at Warner Brothers, the leadership at the time, wanted instant success and instant results. They were being lazy in everything they did. Zack, Chris, and David Goyer constructed a Superman movie, Man of Steel, a very good Superman movie, but it didn't get instant results, right? Like the first Iron Man did. So that's it. Nolan and Goyer had to go. Snyder was given another chance. Then we get Batman versus Superman, And that movie didn't work for everyone. It was very controversial. We know what happened. It was a divisive movie, and that was it for Zack Snyder after that film. And a lot of the problems with BVS did actually come from studio interference. I mean, the original movie had half an hour cut from it, which is disgusting. You know, so they never allowed the man to be free to do what he wanted. And as I say, I'm going to give Zack most of the credit for Wonder Woman 2017. And if that's the kind of setup behind the scenes that Zack would have done for the other, you know, standalone solo movies, I think we would have got something really special. And considering the general audience, journalists and critics loved Wonder Woman 2017, why couldn't of that been the reception of the other solo movies? Do you understand what I'm saying? So Zack Snyder could have easily made a success of the DCEU. So basically, when you ask why did the DCEU fail, it failed because of studio interference. They had the right people there. Man of Steel was great. BVS was great. David Ayer's Suicide Squad would have been great. We've never seen David Ayer's Suicide Squad. By the way, more studio interference. They dumped Zack's beautiful Justice League movie, brought in Joss Whedon to destroy that movie, and it became a bad joke. It's like those dolls in the first Toy Story where Sid is disassembling them and putting them back together. That's what Justice League is. Studio interference is why the DCEU didn't work, why the DCEU failed. If they allowed Snyder to do what he wanted, that would never have happened. And the first Wonder Woman is proof and evidence of Snyder's genius and talent. And that's what we would have got with the other solo movies. So ultimately, Snyder is driven out and they do Justice League. They get success, surprisingly, with Aquaman. Shazam does okay, but then it goes from bad to worse. They do Joker, but the guy they brought in to run DC Films at the time, Walter Hamada, didn't even want to do Joker, which is very embarrassing for him because Joker made $1 billion. So if you're asking why DC failed, it wasn't because of Zack Snyder. It was because the studio at the time, the leadership at the time, wouldn't allow Snyder to do his thing. It was interference after interference, and this is why we're here today. And the question we have to ask right here, right now, can James Gunn do better? Will there be studio interference, or is James Gunn part of the studio plan? Of course he is. James Gunn, of course, is his own man, and he and Peter will come up with the things they want to come up with. But also, he's not working against what the studio wants. Zack Snyder didn't care about profits and the general audience. He just wanted to make something that he believed in. And there's a difference, and that is the thought process of an auteur storyteller, an auteur director. There's the difference. James Gunn is working with Zaslav in the studio to make the money. So that's the thing. So the question is, can they create something to make the money, as much money as they want? Only time will tell. I think there's a lot of people who think the success of DC Universe is a foregone conclusion. But we are in very difficult times. Warner Brothers are in financial meltdown, and so is Disney now. Warner Brothers and Disney have been the biggest two studios for the past 10, 15, 20 years, and the times are changing. Entertainment is changing because Hollywood's arrogance has brought them to the floor. So Hollywood isn't the big power it used to be. And the superhero trend, it's near its ending and not in its peak. These are the facts. The box office for Black Adam supports this. In fact, the box offices, even for the MCU movies, are supporting that now. We've just come out of a pandemic climate, which was very difficult for studios. And so you're in a position here now, which I believe the audience is ready for something new. The audience is ready for a variety of movies and not just superhero content. The audience is becoming bored. Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios hit the road running, at the right time? And is it too little, too late for DC Studios? I don't think the audience will ever reject great movies or reject great superhero movies. The question is this what we're getting here? The truth of the matter is, if you really want a successful DC Studios and a successful DC Universe, you could do far worse than look at how Wonder Woman 2017 was put together and copy it and pattern it. This has been Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily here on Movies TV Mad with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.